now, Katrina Pearson, Gina Loudon, and Sheriff David Clarke. Let me start with you, Gina, on this. First, the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders, everyone wrote him off at the beginning. He was a joke. Not unlike, to be quite frank with you, some of the critique of Donald Trump. This guy's for real. He's got the momentum. He's got the energy. Can he win the whole thing?
I think the best place to be right now is part of the anti-establishment movement, and that counts for both the left and the right. Charles, we've seen an election like this. I think that these voters who are really the status quo are making their case known, and I don't think they're going anywhere on either side of the aisle.
You know, Sheriff Clarke, you talk about this all the time. Forget about the highfalutin polls and all that stuff. Go straight to the heartland, go to the grassroots, and it feels like it's being echoed no matter how you take the measurements.
Yeah, this is interesting. You know, the polls are still all over the map. For Mrs. Bill Clinton, her dilemma, and I've said it, a black vote deficiency dilemma, going into Iowa and New Hampshire with very few black residents that live there. She can't use flying, so she's got to wait till South Carolina. But as for Bernie Sanders, he doesn't offer anything new in the race on the Democrat side. He's on the far left. For young voters, they're not hearing anything new. But when you offer them free college, when you offer to forgive their student debt and their student loans, when you talk about free care and all this free stuff, that's enticing to these young voters. But the is not going to be able to deliver on that. I think he poses a threat to Mrs. Bill Clinton. Look, her campaign is taking on water. There's no doubt about that. If they don't get this leak fixed pretty soon, she's going to be submerged.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, when I look at her face, you can almost see it. You can almost see the sadness, the sort of the echo that she can hear these footsteps because she's seen this before. It's played out and not in her favor. Katrina, on the GOP side, we have the new polls out, Iowa, New Hampshire. Your guy, Donald Trump, been sizzling in Iowa. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think there's a couple of things happening here, Charles. You notice in the Fox News poll, their top two qualities that GOP voters were looking for in a candidate was someone that was a strong leader and spoke the truth and says it the way it is, Charles. And I think we can all agree that Donald Trump fits that bill. So there's that and a combination of the same thing. They're tired of the establishment politicians. They're tired of politicians in general. Something the GOP has been wanting for a very long time is a businessman. Donald Trump is just that. He's a businessman, a strong leader, and tells it like it is.
You know, Darren Shaw, you're still with us. And I want to bring up the point that the last go-round, 8 days out, Rick Santorum was in 6th place, and he won Iowa. Now, there wasn't a juggernaut like Donald Trump or even a Ted Cruz in that particular race, but could you still argue that Iowa is still wide open?
No, I think that's almost unquestionably the case. I think we're showing about 58% of voters, that's on both sides, so I haven't separated out the Republicans from the Democrats, about 58% so they haven't made up their minds. And you throw on top of that the fact that while Trump is very, very strong in Iowa and took a leap in this last poll, it is also the case that his lead is almost totally dependent upon first-time caucus goers. And so both of those things come into play here. Could be some volatility, and it is going to be a question of whether he can get those first-time caucusers to the polls next Monday.
Gina, you understand the process. That's been the one sort of asterisk or intangible with respect to Donald Trump. But you can't argue because it's more than just the Fox News poll. Donald Trump now with this amazing momentum in Iowa at the right time. You know, I don't know how the mechanisms work, but it seems like he should be able to win. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that all points indicate that he will, and if he doesn't, then it's Ted Cruz. Either way, the establishment is in big trouble. And the funny part is, Charles, they're still not even getting the message. I really believe that Hillary Clinton can't believe where she found herself. The DNC doesn't know what to do. And I believe the same is true for the GOP. I still think they think if they can just divide the Cruz voters and the Trump voters, somehow they're going to sneak an establishment candidate in there, and I don't think they will.
It does feel like Rubio has sort of been drafting, not necessarily making his move. It was interesting, too, today that Joni Ernst, who was helped into office by Sarah Palin, went to a Rubio event, so it's all sort of kind of weird and crazy there. Sheriff Clarke, I guess when it's all said and done, do you think we'll have a new sort of GOP, maybe even Democrat? Is this the election that really upends both political parties in the power system that we've become accustomed to?
This is what might happen in the end. You know, people talk about a third party. We need a third party. I don't know if that's doable in this day and age. However, you could see the remake of a party, much like when Lincoln ran. If you remember, he wasn't the traditional Republican Party, it was the anti-slavery party, but that's what the Republican Party melded into after Lincoln won that presidential race. So we're seeing the fight right now. This is a fight for the soul of the GOP, the Republican Party, but it could come out looking something or like something entirely different from what we today.
Yeah, I guess like anything else, when you tear it apart, it's ugly, and maybe when they put it back together, there'd be a thing of beauty. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll be back. Of course, Donald Trump at around